Electricity is created as a shaft turns. All creative uses of energy require a shaft to move with significant force. How to turn that shaft without wasting natural resources is our problem. Today we waste natural resources to move the shafts in automobiles and generating plants. So how can we design a turbine that will sit astride a moving force in nature, producing electricity without diminishing our resources? Well, there's no need to design it. That job was done long ago. The giant water wheel placed astride a moving river generates electricity without the need to burn coal or consume other non-renewable resources. There are problems, though. Few flowing streams of water have the potential to convert water movements to adequate amounts of electricity. And building dams to increase that potential is a costly practice in both economic and environmental terms. Furthermore, when you generate electricity within the structure of a dam, you can complicate the water wheel process. No longer can the wheel turbine spin free in air, unopposed by backflow. The efficiency of unidirectional force can be lost. So, with the span of a football field, giant 150-foot-long propellers whoop the landscape, seeking to capture energy from the wind. The popularity of these devices demonstrates the fact that progress is proportional to governmental funding, not necessarily to common sense. The wind turbines on the hillside violate the four laws of aerodynamics. These wind so-called turbines were designed by aeronautical engineers whose day jobs involve building more efficient airplanes. To make an object fly, they maximize lift to counter gravity and increase thrust to counter drag. Gravity, lift, thrust, and drag are also the four balancing dynamics involved in the design of wind turbines. But these turbines are not supposed to fly. That's not their purpose. No doubt these so-called turbines work, or there would not be so many of them. However, to work in harmony with nature, they should be gravity neutral and drag intensive. Instead, the massive blades are feathered for minimum drag, and they are so out of tune with gravity that they are notorious for breaking off and killing innocent people who may be working below. Furthermore, these so-called turbines are allowed to start up only at high wind speeds, wasting potential. Picture yourself in a sailboat. Would you want a narrow slit of fabric for a sail, or would you want to be powered by a vast sheet capable of moving your boat quickly through the water? Designers of wind turbines appear not to understand that their devices could move the drive shaft with more force if the propellers captured more wind, or if they understand this fact, they must have learned there are limits to the capability of such ill-fitted devices to operate efficiently, except for providing thrust to an airplane. The reason I put the word turbine in a kind of joking quote is that these wind propellers are not true turbines. The water wheel is a true turbine. It works well because the weight of water spills over the top of the wheel, and the operation involves a little, back pressure opposition. Yeah, back pressure. That's the limiting factor. How do we solve this problem? Well, before we explore how to cancel the negative force of back pressure, let's look at the root law of physics, determining how to maximize the job of making the turbine shaft turn with greatest efficiency. The formula E equals mc2 squared inspired the destructive atom bomb. The speed of light squared is a philosophical concept. It is absolutely incapable of attainment. Using this formula, however, scientists were able to design destructive devices that were earlier beyond imagination. If we really understand the formula, though, we can find a creative way to harness nature's forces, solutions to our need for alternative energy. Translating the formula, energy is the product of motion applied to matter. Let's simplify it. You get energy when you move matter. You can spend a lot of money and waste a lot of oil or coal moving matter. Or you can find places in nature where matter moves without building a fire and creating steam or exploding fuel following the atmosphere. If E equals m2 squared, and if our simple explanation is valid, then E equals mc without squaring. If that stripped down formula is valid, then C equals E over m. Motion is the product of matter opposing energy. So how do we place a turbine shaft in opposition to the mass of a stream or the wind or the sloshing ocean tides in a manner that will optimize forward motion and cancel the eddy current or vacuum backflow that has stumped the engineering community for so long? Well, you can do it by designing a device like the genuine turbine invented by Barton A. BUHTZ. His last name is spelled BUHTZ. Almost all significant inventions have been fulfilled inspiration of backyard mechanics. Though BUHTZ can't be described with such simplicity, his invention is not the product of corporate funding. Because he's had no funding, his working models are few. His invention, however, does work. It works well. You can visit a working model in Los Angeles. The turbine has been providing household power to the Ivan Forbes family for decades. And you can request their phone number if you wish. BUHTZ's turbine looks like a silo on a farm. It's gravity neutral. The shaft is vertical. The turbine's blades are drag intensive with large surfaces capable of maximizing wind capture. Lift is neutralizing by opening the top of the turbine, allowing the force of the wind to disperse upward. Thrust is concentrated on the shaft where it belongs, providing significant torque to the generator. A circular support mechanism, top and bottom, holds the curved rotors in place. If the rotating platform were naked, exposed on all sides to the wind, it wouldn't work. The rotors would be moved with forward wind motion and stalled with the back force of the passing wind. This vacuum on the retiring side of the device is well known as the eddy current vacuum that pulls back on a speeding automobile. However, BUHTZ solves this problem with stationary fins surrounding the rotors. These stationary vertical panels prevent back force from stalling the device. Instead, wind enters in the direction of flow and with great force passes upward out of the turbine. The result is that even the slightest breeze, the turbine moves the shaft and the generator turned by the shaft creates electricity. BUHTZ's well-balanced device turns the shaft with constantly varying speed that is leveled electronically by a control panel developed by Earl Peterman, the former president of Dictaphone, now retired in Northern California. Recent documentaries on cable television report that Chinese and other engineers are seeking to use water wheel-type inventions to capture the ebb and flow forces deep in rivers or in ocean currents. All such efforts will fail until something equivalent to the BUHTZ design is put to use. The simplest method for a desalination plant to become economically feasible would be for the energy of the sea to be harnessed, providing the electrical power needed by the desalination equipment. Put the BUHTZ turbine in the sea, placed horizontally, half in the surf, half in air, and the energy of inflowing power of the waves would create sufficient energy to make desalination a practical reality with minimal continual expense. The device can be made of non-corrosive materials. Engineering would be costly as the sea is destructive. The turbine would need to be cleaned at regular intervals, but this would be a small price to pay for such a significant contribution to clean water production. Summarizing, to create green electricity, the developers need to develop a genuine turbine with maximum torque. These turbines need to maximize opposition to naturally occurring motion. Thus, in harmony with C equals E over M, we will minimize damage to the environment and reduce the cost of energy. I'm Richard Palmquist. Thanks for listening.